Hello, welcome back to the Fanteam Focus live show. I'm joined with Sean and Jack. We're going to be talking about the second chance game. So we're going to be going through what that is essentially and how we think we're going to win it. AFCON, COVID, we're going to talk about. We've got a quiz which Sean has set up. You did remember the quiz, Sean, right?
Yeah, it's. I had to do a couple of quick questions just a minute ago, but yeah, it's all done.
Forgot to double check that with you before we came on here. And the £1 million game as well. We'll talk about that. So let's catch up with the boys. Jack first, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good, mate. Really good. The NFL is going well these last 3 weeks. I've finally nailed down a process that I'm really happy with.
Well, we got your winnings up on the screen, actually. Let's just say hello to Sean before we explain what's going on there. How are we today, Sean?
Yeah, not too bad. Busy. Run up to Christmas, but yeah, all good.
No COVID running around, guys. My missus literally just tested positive. So it's going to be a bit of a dodgy Christmas again for us. But any scares?
Not the minute for me,
Not
no.
the minute. So,
Touch wood.
Good stuff. Jack, tell us about this COVID stuff then. Not COVID, what am I talking about? Tell us about the NFL. How did you get on? Because
I could tell you about COVID within the NFL. It's as bad as the Premier League at the minute. COVID. There's 8 teams last week that had to shut their facilities. One team with 32 members of the active roster that had COVID or were near someone that had COVID. So we're all on the COVID protocol for the whole week. So it's been brutal, but I took advantage of it in the last 3 weeks somehow, some way. So last night we had 2 games that were postponed, but they were postponed from a matter. It was like days. They were supposed to be played. I think one game was supposed to be played on Saturday, and the other one was supposed to be played on Sunday. So we had a couple of games just moved back a couple of days till Tuesday, and the games were the Washington football team versus the Philadelphia Eagles, which is a NFC East rivalry game, and the other game was the LA Rams versus the Seattle Seahawks, which is a NFC West divisional game. So big rivalry games. We're coming to the business end of the NFL season now. A lot of teams are fighting to stay in contention within the playoffs, etc. So last night I went about it. I built a couple of builds, but this build that took it down last night, I went against the grain, which is what I've mentioned on here a few times, going against Salah, for example, on the Monsters. So I went against the grain with this one. A lot of people would have stacked the LA Rams game, and for good reason. It was a game that I was targeting when it was originally on the Sunday slate.
yeah,
But thank God for me, it got moved back. And it should have been on paper a high scoring game. In the end, there was only 30 points in the game. So I went against the grain with this one. I went with the Eagles quarterback and Jalen Hurts, who just come back off injury. I wasn't really expecting the game that I saw out of him, but he just went nuts, tried to prove his critics wrong, and he certainly did last night. I tied him up with his favourite passing option, really, his tight end in Dallas Goedert. I had a couple of people message me last night about playing Eagles wide receivers, and I just said, good luck, because you are playing with fire if you try and pick one of them wide receivers. I mean, one of the wide receivers, Greg Ward, he's like 4th on the depth chart, and he scored a touchdown last night. So you really are playing with fire if you start going towards the Eagles receivers.
yeah.
Just don't even think about it. Play the tight end, Dallas Goedert. That's his favourite target. Miles Sanders, he come back from injury 3 weeks ago, and he's been seeing a lot of the rushing work at running back for the Eagles. And he had a nice game again last night, so 16.6 points there. I bought him back with Antonio Gibson on the Washington football team side. Washington football team they had to sign guys off the street to play quarterback last night because all of their quarterbacks were in the COVID protocol. So
COVID is just
that's how bad it.
it's across. It's everywhere, isn't it? There's COVID. The United States, Britain.
But that's how bad it was for them. They were literally signing 3 quarterbacks off the street to come and play for them last night. And I just thought,
It's insane.
well, they're not going to pass much. They're just going to give it to the running back a ton, which is what they did. The backup running back as well, Stevenson, also got in the end zone last night, and I had a nice little bet on that 5-1.
Jack,
and then
you're flying, mate. You're flying.
I am flying. I played the Eagles defense because I didn't expect the Washington football team to be as competitive as they were. Fair play to them. The guys that come in off the street done okay. I thought the Eagles defense would have put up a few more points than it did, but in the end it was enough. And I just bought it back with Cooper Cup from the Rams and the Seahawks game. Don't
Yeah.
even think about it. If Cooper Cup's on a slate, any of these slates you play him, he's had one game this season where he's seen less than double-digit targets in the game, and even that game he saw 9 targets. Just if he's on the slate, you play him. I don't care how much he is. It's like Mo Salah, like you just play him.
He's that good, like.
Yep.
Fair enough. So how much money did you win, Jack? Cut to the chase, man. What did you get?
Over the last 3 weeks?
Yeah, go on. Give it to me. Sock it to me, boss.
You're looking at about 1,200.
Sugar dumplings. That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm quite happy.
I'd be happy with that. What do you think, Sean?
I'm more shocked if I wake up in the morning after an NFL night and don't see his name at the top, somewhere in the top, rather than it if it isn't. So,
Jack, you're writing your name into folklore, mate.
I've also got a process with the NFL now. I've seen it a couple of times with the football monsters, and it's something I'm using on the NFL now. So I enter the smaller tournament, the £1.68 tournament, and I put 9 teams in that, and I enter. So I only enter 3 teams, but I enter it 3 times that team. So that team, that's what I say. The other week I had 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. So you get. So I've been doing. It's just something I noticed within the football. I wouldn't use that tactic on any other DFS site, like DraftKings, for example. I've never used it on there because it's just not a wise tactic. But it seems to work on Fanteam. I don't know why, but it's working for me at the minute. I'm quite happy.
Makes sense, doesn't it? Because it's quite affordable. If it's like the £1 something entry, you can enter. Yep. It's only going to cost you maybe £5 if you do 5 teams or whatever. I'm not sure what the maximum is you're allowed, and if it wins, it wins.
Yeah, I don't actually know myself the maximum, but I only enter. I can use 9 teams, and I mix them up a bit, 3 different teams, and then I enter them. Yeah, like so.
Sean, I think there is a maximum on like the football monsters, for example, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't. I mean, off the top of my head, I want to say it's like 100. So it is quite high. Whether I don't think many people do the 100, but yeah, I mean, it definitely seems to be working. And I'd say, obviously, from speaking to Jack, so it's probably not even the best result he's had in the last couple of weeks, as well, given what he could be winning in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I won a step 2 ticket. Well, I won step 2 basically within the NFL, so I'm going into step 3, which is starting on February the 8th, isn't it? The World Cup of
World Championship, yeah.
World Championship.
Yes.
So explain that to me briefly, Jack, because I'm like a 5-year-old's knowledge in terms of NFL and stuff like that.
So yeah, I won a step 2 ticket, which I entered into the NFL Red Zone Monster to win a place in the World Championship of Fantasy Football, which was meant to be held on Boxing Day, I believe, wasn't it, Sean?
Yeah, Boxing Day, and then the next set of fixtures. So there's 2 set of fixtures.
Yes, it's just a two game week tournament basically. So yeah, I ended up setting, thankfully, the team that ran away with it last week. The team that I put in last week, just everyone went off. Like, I mean, I was dancing around my living room, but I had people like messaging me at the end of the 3rd quarter saying you've done it already, like it's done. I was like, I'm not counting my chickens. But without sounding big-headed, I did kind of like with what was happening in the games. I kind of knew. I was like, yeah, this is going to take something dramatic now to stop this. What's happening? Because a lot of the teams around me had played a lot of their guys in the earlier games, and I'd played 5 guys in the later games, which all went off basically. So, again, it's another tactic that I use. It's not obviously I don't see other people's teams, but I always like to stack the later games. I do it because on DraftKings, for example, you can do late swaps. You can't do that on Fanteam anyway, but you could do late swaps on DraftKings. So it's just always been a tactic that I've used for DFS with NFL. But yeah, I won a World Championship of Fantasy Football ticket, and I'm in the dance. Let's say that.
Absolutely fantastic stuff, mate. Very, very proud of you.
Thank you. I'm going to need your help, though. You too. Well, I've already messaged you two about this, so I'm going to need your help with this.
We'll do what we can, mate. We'll do what we can, but the decisions are yours. I got Ultimate Fan up next. Then I got both your teams on here. Sean, do you want to talk us? Obviously, we're sponsored by Ultimate Fan, guys. So if you want to get involved, the link is in the video description. It's a mixture between pack openings and fantasy football. Sean, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, so I've been doing all right in it recently. Luckily, I've got players like Salah, Trent, so it's a lot of the big hitters at the moment. So it does help being able to switch them around. I think last week I finished on about 79 points, which some weeks would get you in the sort of the prize positions, but didn't last week. I think a lot of people went heavy on Man City, so did quite well out of it there. But yeah, so this week I think it's difficult with postponements as well. We don't know. I think there'll probably be less postponements now because of the new COVID rules. The fact that as long as they've got 13 outfield players and one goalkeeper available, they have to play the game. I think they've said basically if you've played in the first team, that's considered an option sort of thing. So I don't think there'll be as many postponements, but there obviously will still be a few players that are out for a couple of games at a time. But I think this week the game to probably target is the Leeds game, Liverpool Leeds game. We were talking just before I came on air as a non-Salah owner in FPL. I've not been too bad the last few weeks, but this week will definitely be just sitting and hoping that somehow he doesn't do anything, because you would expect him to go against the Leeds team that have been leaking goals left, right, and centre. You expect that he will do something this week. So I've got in my Ultimate Fan entry this week, I've got Salah as the captain. So the captain armband you put on someone, and they basically score double points for anything. So goals, assists, shots on target, tackles. And I've put the golden boot, I suppose it's golden boot chip, so to speak, on Harry Kane. So essentially you get double points just for goals. So I think he seems to be coming back into a bit of form at the moment. So fancy him. I don't own Ronaldo in it. I haven't packed Ronaldo. I think he would be a good shout against Norwich if he starts. But I've obviously then gone Trent as well, because I think I've got Trent, Cancelo and Reece James. So I've literally just been circling two of those three most weeks, because you don't really score many points for defenders. Clean sheets you don't get a lot. So really it's the attack and returns you want. And those three for me are probably the best three in the league. So this week I've gone for Cancelo at home to Leicester and Trent at home to Leeds. The team as well, you score points for goals they score, lose points for goals they concede, and clean sheets. So again, Liverpool against Leeds should hopefully score quite a few goals. And then I've just gone for Smith Rowe against Norwich. He may not start, but I don't have a huge amount of midfielders. Salah's class as a forward in this. So I think Norwich is a decent fixture. He's looked good when he comes on. It's just whether or not he starts, but I'll take the risk. And then I want a Man City midfielder. I've got most of them, and I just fancy maybe De Bruyne to do something this week. So I've gone for that as my sort of my 6 picks, as well as the team this week.
I like the De Bruyne shout, a bit of a cheeky one.
Yeah.
There. Jack, how are you getting on with this, mate? Your knowledge levels increasing, or still very much beginner?
I'm still very much beginner, but Sean's just made things a little bit easier for me there, like telling me how it works, etc. But yeah, I'm still very much at the beginning stage with this. I normally forget to open my packs, unfortunately, but I'm getting there. I've got Reece James as my captain there, which is okay, I suppose. I've got Danny Ings. I've got Saha as well. He's on my bench, but I didn't play him. Was it last week he scored?
Can't remember. Did they play last week? Crystal Palace.
Or was it the week before? Whatever he scored.
I can't remember.
One of these game weeks he scored, and I played Danny Ings in front of him. Danny Ings either didn't. Villa's game got cancelled, or he just didn't come. He didn't play at all. And Saha scored. So yeah, I'm still very much beginner with it. I need to improve, and hopefully my team gets better over the coming weeks with my packs that I open.
So let's talk about the second chance game then, because that's something quite exciting that's coming up, right? I got the kind of graphic up here. Free entry starts on January the 14th. And it's very similar to the £1 million game, boys, right? I know you boys have been doing a bit of research about it today. First prize, 20 grand. Not to be sniffed at for free entry, right? I've got some of the differences up here from like the other formats that we're used to. Sean, do you want to kick it off with some of the main differences that you might have come across?
Yeah, so in terms of the comparison between the second chance game and the season-long Fanteam game at the moment, they are pretty much the same. The pricing is exactly the same. So when prices go up in the main season-long game, they will also go up in this game.
Okay.
everyone that's ever been on Fanteam has a free entry. So I've only put one in at the moment, but then you can also enter more teams. I want to say it's like £10 to enter. I think you can enter. I don't know what the maximum is that you can, but there's probably like a limit of 20, 100 entries you could do in there if you wanted to. But everyone gets a free one. I think at the moment there's about 6,000 teams in there, which will obviously go up closer to the time.
6,017, yeah.
Yeah. So the difference is really between this and the main season long. In the season long, you have a squad of 15, so a bit like FPL. So you have your 2 keepers, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders, and 3 attackers. Whereas in this, you only have a squad of 11. So you only have your starting 11. So you have a keeper, then you have to have at least 3 defenders, 2 midfielders, and a forward. So you could play 5-4-1, 3-4-3, 3-5-2, whatever, but you have to have at least 3 defenders, 2 midfielders, 1 forward. Captaincy and vice captaincy is the same. So you pick one each week. If the captain doesn't play, if your vice captain starts, you get a free transfer every week. So that's the same as the season long. The difference here is, and also additional transfers cost you a -4. So that's standard. But the difference here is, whereas in the season long, you can only roll 1 transfer to have 2 free. If you then try roll another one, the 2 is the maximum you would have. On this, you could effectively roll for 5 weeks and then have 6 free transfers.
Whoa.
Which is quite good. So if you can set up your team well at the start of this game to cover yourselves for 2-3 weeks, you can then essentially mini wildcard and it not cost you anything. So I think that's a key thing to remember, because unlike FPL, for example, this is the same for the season long, there are no chips other than wildcard. So you get a wildcard in this as well. So that's quite good because it's only 17 game weeks. But we know there's been a lot of talk recently that there'll be going to be double game weeks, blank game weeks, whereas in FPL you would use free hits, all that sort of thing. You don't have them in here. So planning is essential. So if you can roll those transfers to give you 3-4, when it then comes to a double game week, to transfer in 4 double game weekers is going to be really beneficial. So I think that's a really good change on this compared to the season long. I think other than that, there is a late registration on it. So you don't have to enter by the 14th of January.
Okay.
It is open for another week after that, up until the 22nd of January. But you obviously only get, I think it says on here, 95% of whatever the average score was from the first week.
Oh, yeah.
So it may be beneficial. A lot depends on, so I think I looked at it earlier, at the start of the game week, or the start of this competition, there's potentially going to be a double game week. But it depends where the fixtures fall, if there's any more postponement. So a lot is up in the air at the moment with it. But it's definitely for those that are sort of nowhere in the season long, it's definitely like a fresh starter going for, and like I say, free entry, a fresh starter going for that prize pool.
So me then.
Yeah. I think it pays I think it's the top 4,000 pays out. No, I think if you finish 4,000, it's only £5, but it's all free to enter, isn't it? So it's definitely worth a go. I mean, you look at the breakdown of the winnings, and if you finish in the top 50, so 50th, you get £100. So it's not. Whereas I think if you finish 50th in the season long, I don't know what the prize is, but obviously it's a lot more. But you had to pay £20 to enter that, whereas this is free. But obviously, like you said, winning it is the 20k. Even 5th is 1,000. So definitely worth a go. And even for those that have only recently joined, it's a good chance to sort of practice strategy and see how it all works, ready for next season potentially.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, Jack, on.
I was going to say as well, I've done it. If you enter 3 teams, you get a €2 ticket for any contest that you want to play in. And if you enter 5 teams, you get a €15 ticket for any €15 game that you want to play. So I've got 5 teams in it at the minute.
Oh, wow. So that's another extra bonus then as well.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
just what I'd mentioned that.
I was going to say as well, Jack, it's got your name written all over it, this, right? Because I know you said you forgot to do your team a couple of times in the first few weeks of the season long, right? Second chance, baby. Here it comes, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to give it my full attention. I've signed up to a few more things now, thanks to the help of Sean. So, I'm looking forward to this contest.
NFL will be done as well by then. Well, on the whole as well. So
well, yeah,
so
we'll be in the playoffs for the NFL by
Yeah.
then. But yeah, this will get my full attention.
So we got the fixtures up here. I know you've Sean's got you involved in the old Fantasy Football Hub, and you were very complimentary about it on the group chat the other day. Sean's kindly sent us the fixture ticker from, I think, game week 22. Sean, is that when when the competition starts, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I thought I'd just show you the sort of the first 6 game weeks as to it's sort of ranked by who's perceived to have the easiest fixtures at the top. So we can see sort of at the top there you've got West Ham, Aston Villa, and Newcastle. And at the bottom, you've got Leicester, Arsenal, and Chelsea. Chelsea mainly because they've got 2 blank game weeks where they're going to the Club World Cup at the moment, as things stand. So, I mean, just looking at that, I probably will not have any Chelsea players in at the start because you with only having an 11-man squad, you need people that are going to play. And we'll come on to the sort of safety net in a bit.
And they got Man City and Tottenham as well before the blanks, right?
So it's not as though, I mean, Tottenham, you could maybe argue isn't too difficult a game, but do you really want to be wasting those transfers to just have one decent game against Tottenham potentially and then not have someone play for 2 weeks? For me, no. So I would potentially not start with any Chelsea. But the thing that sort of muddies it at the moment, and we won't know for definite until close to the time, is it's a 17-game week tournament, but you've got a lot of teams that have obviously had postponements. And at the moment, if people don't follow him on Twitter, Ben Crellin, who is just like the guru when it comes to blanks, doubles, when games are going to happen, he thinks at the moment there will potentially be some postponements put in the week before the tournament starts, which I think is game week 21 in FPL and Fanteam.
Yeah.
Then he thinks there'll be some in game week 22. So it may be that actually the first week of this tournament, there are teams that have a double game week. So we may want to be looking at those teams to potentially get a bit of a head start ahead of everyone else when it comes to the start of this tournament. So that's something to definitely bear in mind. I think the teams that don't have anything, I think teams like Liverpool, Leeds, Man City and Wolves haven't had any postponements yet. So they will only have 17 games. Whereas you've got people like Tottenham at the moment have got 3 games to rearrange. So if Kane and Son come back into any sort of form, they're decent anyway, but chuck an extra 3 games on top, then they're really sort of people to consider, I would say.
Being a Chelsea fan, Jack, would that have any sway on your Chelsea decision here when you see they got Man City, Tottenham, and then potentially a couple of weeks where they don't have a fixture at all? Would you maybe...
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, for sure. I've not actually looked at this for really, like I just built a brief team last night quickly. Otherwise, I've just done some auto teams just so... I would say I haven't really built my final teams yet. When you actually see my team, you'll see that I've put Salah in. Obviously, there's a risk that he will go to the African Cup of Nations. I personally don't think that'll go ahead anyway, but we will see, even if it does. But having Salah in there, the money that you save from that, you can move about anyway.
I think you have avoided Chelsea players as well, if I remember rightly.
I know. I think I put Mason Mount in.
Oh, you did you?
Yeah, I think I put Mason Mount in, but I will certainly, looking at that now, I'm certainly going to go against that.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? And like Sean says, I think that the doubles that could potentially happen in 22 could be interesting, but we'll see a little bit later when we've got the COVID graph. I don't think
Tottenham
we're out of the woods
team,
yet.
aren't they?
Tottenham, what?
I think Tottenham are the one team that have missed the most games, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. At the moment, Tottenham and Burnley have got 3 games to rearrange. Then you've got Brentford, Brighton, Leicester, Man U, and Watford have got 2, and you've got then another 6 have got 1. But like we said, at the moment, well, nothing's set in stone, and there might be more postponements, but it looks as though a lot of them will go into the week before this starts. So I think West Ham, Norwich, and Southampton have got a game in hand at the moment, but that could well be replayed before this starts, so it doesn't come into it. But you could still have Burnley and Tottenham could have 2 games still where they haven't played. And I think it's important with I think I mentioned it really on the difference is there's a safety net function on this second chance tournament. So where, for example, I mean, the main one I looked at was I mean, Liverpool midfield would be the case example. If you left Salah in your team, because it looks like at the moment, so I'm jumping about a bit here, the African Cup of Nations, if it goes ahead, anyone that goes there will miss 22 and 23. They may miss 24 if they come back, if they get to the final, because I think the 24 is midweek, and I think the final's on the Sunday. So if they get to the final or the third, fourth place playoff, they could well miss 24 as well. But you could, if you wanted to, like Jack's alluded to, start Salah. And he obviously won't play in those first 2 weeks because if he's with Egypt, it would then go down to the next midfielder price-wise for Liverpool. In this case, it would be Mane. But obviously, Mane will be the same as Salah. He's going to the AFCON as well.
So it'd go down
so it will then drop to
Jota. Maybe.
Yeah. So just because you've got Salah in there, and by doing that, you will probably then want Salah back at some point. But by putting Salah in there in the first place, you're covered. And then when it comes to
that's next level stuff, that is, Jack.
When he comes back from AFCON, you haven't then got to transfer him back in because he's already there.
Oh, that is next level stuff. We'll have to clip that.
There's quite a few where the safety net is really important. Defenders, not so much, because you're always going to have. I think I looked at Arsenal. Ben White's the cheapest, and he's quite high owned in the season long. But if he doesn't play, you then drop to I think Nuno Tavares, the left back, who wouldn't play if Tierney's playing. But if Ben White's not playing, there's going to be another centre back that's cheaper. So defenders aren't too bad. Midfielders as well, but you can sort of take the midfielders. I looked at Man City as an example. If you went for Mahrez, who's quite a decent option, but you don't know when he starts. And the thing to bear in mind with the safety net is, if your player doesn't start, then another player comes on. If your player then gets subbed on with 20 minutes to go, that doesn't matter. It's the person that starts. So last season, for example,
is that
Salah
the same
against...
in the Fanteam £1 million game as well, Sean?
No, because you've got the suspension stuff. So if he comes on in the £1 million, you would get the points. But because of the safety net, if he doesn't start, it then goes to the next one.
Of course.
So last year with Salah, when he played Palace, I think he was on the bench. I think when they won 7-0 or 7-1, he was on the bench. You would have then got Mane. But then even Salah came on with 20 minutes to go, scored 2 goals. That it wouldn't matter because it's the person that starts the game. So that's just something to bear in mind, really. But the Man City midfielders would be the prime example. Mahrez is a decent player when he starts, but doesn't start that often. So you could pick Mahrez in the game, 8.4, and then the next player underneath him is Foden. So if Mahrez doesn't start a game, you get Foden coming on as your safety net.
That adds a whole extra layer to the game, doesn't it? Do you think?
Yeah,
a whole extra layer of strategy.
I like it.
But if you went for,
I think I do as well.
I think the Man City midfielders go like KDB, Sterling, Mahrez, Foden, Grealish and Gundogan are the same price, and then it goes to Bernardo Silva. Yeah. If you went for Silva and then he didn't play, it would drop to Rodri. Now Rodri's not a bad player, but he's not exactly an attacking force like those ones I've mentioned before. So do you really want to risk going for Silva, knowing that if he doesn't start, you're going to get Rodri or Fernandinho?
Yeah, or Palmer. I've just got it up front of me. So you got underneath Silva, Torres, Rodri, Fernandinho, and Palmer, and obviously Torres. There's talk of him going to Barcelona now in January, even though he is injured as well. That's really interesting. There are a lot of teams like that where, so for example, Tottenham, you've got Son and Kane will start, but then usually there's a third one, but you don't know who that's going to be a lot of the time. So you could go for Moira, he's 6.4, and then it goes down to Ali, Bergwijn, and then Ndombele. So you've got that sort of tiering of, if you wanted a third Tottenham or an attacker that you don't want to pay the price of Son and Kane, you could go for that. And it's the same with Man U as well. So you've obviously got Bruno's the most expensive midfielder, but then you've got Rashford, Sancho, Greenwood, and you would think one of those would start, but you don't know which one necessarily. So you could go for Rashford, knowing that if he doesn't start, you get Sancho, and if he doesn't start, you get Greenwood. So, and you've got a hell of a lot there as well. So you've got Pogba, Lingard, Van de Beek, all before you get to McTominay and Fred. So that's quite good. Yeah, the thing I would bear in mind a lot in this game, especially with the safety net, is the attackers. Because a lot of attackers don't have a safety net, or don't have a likely that's going to play safety net. Forwards, so if you look at Tottenham, if you look at Tottenham, you've got Kane, and then it goes down to like Dane Scarlett. Yeah.
So if Kane doesn't start, is injured for whatever reason, you aren't going to more than likely get a replacement in because they'll probably play Son up top with like Moira and Ali either side.
It's a very good point.
And it's the same. Same with Antonio.
Yeah, and United, Ronaldo, Cavani, and then Martial. And Martial's off by the look of it.
I think Man City's probably the same. It's got Jesus, and then you've got probably a youngster, a Dozy or someone like that underneath. So
exactly,
I think in my draft that I've already done, depending on if he's fit, I've gone for Calvert Lewin because if he doesn't play, he's a decent option anyway, I think. If he doesn't play, you've got Richarlison underneath him, you've got Rondon underneath him just in case. And there's, I think Arsenal's another one. You've got Lacazette, but then you've got Nketiah, people like that. So it's definitely worth bearing in mind, especially for the strikers, who is underneath them in case they don't start the game. If for example, Kane didn't start the game, but then came on, probably because there's no other striker that would have played instead of him, you would get Kane.
You would get his
points.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that, it, like you said, it adds that other level. And I've looked at the defenders. Sorry, I'm rattling on here. The defenders for Man City and Liverpool, you know that Van Dijk will play for Liverpool. You know that Diaz will play for City, but you don't necessarily know who the centre-back partner would be. So you could go for Liverpool. You could go for Konate, I think is the most expensive at the moment. And if he doesn't play, it drops to Matip. So you'd always have the Liverpool centre-back alongside Van Dijk for I think Konate's 5.5 million compared to like 6.5 for Van Dijk. So if you wanted a cheap route into a top defence, you could go for that. But the only thing to bear in mind with that is obviously prices do change. So just because the order at the start is, as we've mentioned, if the price goes above it, then you might then have the second most expensive backup and might not work out properly. So, but there's definitely a level of strategy to it, I would say.
A whole new level, yeah. And what that's bringing to my brain is, and maybe you can answer this one, Jack. You could potentially build a team with every player's got like a really strong kind of safety net, and then you could maybe roll 6 transfers because your team is so kind of strong and has so much like kind of backup. Yep. Do you think that's doable?
Yeah, certainly. That's kind of what I'm gonna now. Sean's filled me, give me more information on this now. So now Sean's done that, I'm gonna certainly look at doing something like that. Roll the safety net, and like you say, roll the free transfers over. Try and build up, get 4 or 5 free transfers. Do you get a wild card in this as well, Sean?
Yeah, you get a wild card as well.
You do. So, yeah, certainly that's a great tactic to use.
So we talked about COVID earlier. I've got a COVID chart up on the screen, and I know fantasy football is meant to be a bit of an escape, but COVID is obviously playing a part in our strategy and stuff, right? We've got a lot of cases here in the UK at the moment. This graph shows that we've just got to, I think it was over 100,000 cases today, which is the highest at any point during the pandemic. Jack, do you think we're going to see more games called off, or what do you think?
I think you're going to see games played behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Wales have already done it, haven't they? Well,
oh yeah, we have
from Boxing Day. Because the Cardiff manager, I was listening to TalkSport earlier. I know he was on there going mad about it, saying, I mean, what he was saying was right. It is silly. How can you not have fans in a stadium in Cardiff, but then they can all travel, like all the Cardiff fans can travel across the border. Just for example, go to Bristol City and go and watch Bristol City versus Cardiff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But you're going to get to a stage where I think all games are going to go behind closed doors, and it's out of control at the minute. And like you say, fantasy football is meant to be an escape route from it all, but even like it affects the game that we play as well. So it's a shame. It's a crap situation for everyone.
Yeah, it's creeping in. But like you say, Wales are leading the way in terms of...
Scotland are doing it as well.
They've done it as well, have they?
Well, I think you can have 500... I don't get that either. You can have 500 fans in the stadium from Boxing Day. That's it.
That's weird, isn't it? But I suppose Wales is in a unique kind of situation because, like you said, we've got teams that are in the kind of English football league, like Cardiff, Swansea, Wrexham. Yeah. So Wrexham fans can go away to Burnley, but they can't watch Burnley at home in the racecourse, So it's a tricky one, right, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, it does seem it seems strange, but I agree with Jack. I think, I think you can sort of tell the tone from Boris that we probably should have done some sort of lockdown pre-Christmas, but he doesn't want to be unpopular with the public.
More than he already is.
Well, yeah, he doesn't want to be the man that ruins Christmas. So, but I could quite easily see on the 27th, 28th, there'll be definitely restrictions in terms of, I think they'll go behind closed doors, which will make it more difficult for the fantasy football side, because I think I listened to, I can't remember where it was. I don't know if it was one of the hub pods. It was either the Sky podcast or the Green Arrow. They were saying about the fact that if the games are cancelled, the games are played behind closed doors, they don't have to obviously give, I think they should give 3 weeks notice to fans if they change any dates of games. Whereas if they're behind closed doors, they can literally change it tomorrow sort of thing. Yeah. So if they do get put behind closed doors, then it will be literally, you don't know, it'll be difficult to plan. Hopefully, in terms of the second chance tournament, by the sort of middle of January, we should have a bit more, hopefully things will die down a little bit and we'll have a bit more idea of exactly what's happening.
So my next question is going to be, has it affected the way you play the kind of season-long format games? I know it certainly has. Finding myself going like a little bit more short-term, or especially last week I did a little bit more short-term, took a couple of hits, for example, which I wouldn't normally do. Have you found yourself making any changes?
I have.
Yeah,
like I say, I will from now on as well. Like last week, I mentioned to you both before we come on, I made my transfers at 12 o'clock, and then that game gets called off at 12:30. So
nightmare.
Yeah, just a nightmare. So I at that point, I'd already taken the hit as well. I think I was a -4, and I was just like, I'm not taking any more hits. I'm just going to leave it, let it run, see what happens.
Yeah, that's so bad, isn't it? Like that Aston Villa game getting called off. Like, how close it is? Like, was it like an hour before kickoff or something, Sean? I can't remember.
Yeah. I think it was, because what time did it was meant to be 3 o'clock, wasn't it? I think. So the deadline would have been
2 o'clock game, I think, wasn't it?
Was it? I think the FPL deadline was at 1:30. I think it was about 12:30 that it did get called off. So like you said, a lot of people had waited till the hour before kickoff and was like, well, it's not going to change now, and then find out that it had been. So, but hopefully that shouldn't be a case now. If, like I said, they've reduced down the number of players you need, sort of thing. I think there'll be less postponements, but more random players could be away from the games.
Interesting. I was watching the news earlier, and the South Africa, where I think this variant is from, right? Their graph has gone up like that, but then now it's like it's come down. So it didn't really. This graph suggests that it might just go like that, but South Africa just went like that, and then they just kind of dealt with it. I think they think vaccines and stuff were doing the job. So it'd be interesting to see what happens, right?
I found that interesting on TalkSport all week. They've been talking about the vaccines, and I'm not telling anyone to go and get it or whatever, do what you like. But it was interesting that we were like the Premier League, for example, is like one of the lowest, like the players are like the lowest across Europe vaccinated. Which I found that really interesting.
75% or something, wasn't it? Like that, something like that.
Yeah, and you've got countries like Germany and Spain that don't really have this problem, but I believe Germany have gone behind closed doors anyway with their games.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see because there are obviously a lot of unvaccinated players. I think there are a lot of potentially, not maybe now, but maybe the ones that have been postponed already, where games have been cancelled because they didn't have the players, but they didn't have players potentially because they'd come into close contact with someone that had COVID, because they weren't vaccinated. They couldn't just take a test to check. They had to isolate for 10 days. So it does raise the question, or would have raised the question, how it's not fair on their opponents that they're having to cancel games just because the players aren't vaccinated, therefore having to isolate. That did raise the question there, but I think they've tried to nip that in the bud by saying basically you only need 13 players to fulfil the fixture. So
they've changed the rules in the NFL regarding COVID as well. So if you're vaccinated and you're not showing symptoms, you don't have to do a test. Like, you just won't be tested. So I don't know how wise that is at all, but that's what they're doing. So
that's mad, isn't it? Because my girlfriend tested positive today. She's had symptoms for probably up 5 days. We tested before and she was negative, but today is positive. So we're going to go do a PCR tomorrow. But if that was the NFL, she wouldn't have had tested because she's had a double jab, right?
Yeah, it's but again, the NFL is another league that there's again like only 75% of the players are vaccinated, and just it's mad. It's a horrible situation.
So let's move it on to AFCON. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. Sean seemed to have quite a good grasp of the fixtures and stuff and the weeks that they were happening. So we'll call on that knowledge a bit, Sean, if you can remember any of that. I've put the graphic up here where Liverpool say that they've agreed Mo Salah won't go to AFCON until after the Chelsea game. Go on, Sean, when's the Chelsea game? I have to go back.
The Chelsea game, I think, is the 2nd of January, off the top of my head. So, yeah, I assume, well, I don't know for definite, but I'd assume that they've asked the same thing for Mane as well. So I'm guessing that they both aren't going. But that doesn't affect the season long. I know there's been a lot going on today with FPL in terms of everyone gets an extra free hit, don't they?
Yeah.
It's been announced today. And I think that's helped a lot of Salah owners because I think effectively they would only miss, if they play this game here, the 21st, I think they'd only miss 2 games. Salah would miss potentially 2 games because there is a gap at the end of January, which is, I think, game week between 23 and 24, I think. There's a gap where I think there are qualifiers in South America and stuff like that. No European qualifiers, but there's basically like a winter break, effectively.
Yeah.
So the African stars actually only going to miss game week 22, game week 23, and like I mentioned, game week 24 I think starts on the Tuesday, and the final and final and third place is on the Sunday. So, and I think I don't know what the odds are in terms of who's the favourites to win AFCON. I'd assume someone like Egypt, just because of Salah, would be up there. I think
I'll pull that up while you're talking now, Sean.
I'm going off the top of my head.
I'd say it's Egypt. Yeah, I'd say it's Egypt.
I was going off the top of my head. I'd say someone like Algeria is probably. I want to say Algeria is probably the reigning champions. I've just got an image of Mahrez holding the trophy.
I was going to mention Mahrez earlier when you were talking about him. I was going to he'll obviously go to this as well, won't he?
Yeah. So I think overall there's if you look through the teams, obviously there's some people that are going or potentially going. I think there's like Nigeria have got a 40-man squad at the moment. That's reducing down to 28. So you've got people like Emmanuel Dennis at Watford, who I know has been popular in other formats, but he looks like he may go. Arsenal, obviously Aubameyang was looking like he was going to be a miss, but he's not an option anymore anyway. Obviously fallen out with Arteta. Pepe will probably go, but I can't imagine you're going to be too bothered about Pepe. I don't think Villa are losing anyone. I'm just going through the list now. Brentford, no. Bissouma for Brighton, but I don't think he's really a decent season-long option, but don't really think he's a second chance option. Cornet at Burnley, he looks like he's going. Mendy and Ziyech at Chelsea. So the second chance one, I didn't really mention goalkeepers in it, but if you went for Mendy in the second chance one, you don't have to worry about it because you just automatically would get Kepa as the replacement anyway.
That's not a good thing.
No. Crystal Palace will lose a few from the look of it. Koyate, Schlupp, Ayew and Zaha. So that's they're going to lose 2 or 3 attacking players there. So you could potentially look at people like, I don't know if Eze will probably be back fit then, Conor Gallagher. So they're probably going to be assured of starts over that time as well. Iwobi at Everton, probably not an option. Iheanacho, again, at Leicester. I'd say there's not really any big. Obviously, you've got the big players like Salah, Mane, Mahrez. I'm just looking down the list. That's probably Sarr was at the start of the season. Ben Rama at West Ham, maybe. I'd say it's less the players that are going. It's more the players that will play in their place that potentially are where you're going to be looking at. So we've mentioned before, Jota will be guaranteed to be playing with both of those players going. You've got one less Chelsea attacker. Could that shore up a few places? But we've already said in the second chance game that with the blanks and stuff, you don't want to be going near Chelsea players at the start of it, I'd say. Man City, Mahrez going does free up one extra position. So someone like Foden could get more time. And yeah, I'd say Josh King at Watford is probably a bit more of an assured starter, given if Dennis does go, he's probably the main attacker then. So yeah.
So I just found some odds from Google. I've never heard of the site before. It's called oddschanger.com, but they've got Egypt favourites 9-2, then Ghana 13-2. So if you go, if that's a reputable source, maybe Salah could go a little bit further than some are thinking. Jack, you don't think it's going to go ahead? You think it might get cancelled? There's been a lot of talk about that.
I don't think it'll get cancelled. I think they'll just postpone it. This tournament was meant to be held in the summer last year.
Oh, so it's been postponed once already then?
Yeah, it didn't get held because it's been held in Cameroon, and during the summer, that's like the wet season in Cameroon. So that was the reason why it got moved back to January. To be honest, I think most of the time it's played in January anyway, from what I remember in years past, the AFCON. But yeah, I potentially maybe they move it back. Maybe the situation gets better. But like you've already mentioned tonight, Reece, the COVID situation seems to be getting better in Africa anyway, doesn't it? So maybe it does go ahead. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, South Africa, that's what they said on the Channel 4 news earlier. I mean, we'll see, but that's definitely what they said. Okay. Jack,
Algeria did win the last one.
Oh, yeah, that holders. I saw that somewhere just now as well. So I got your second chance team up now for the podcast listeners. Jack, if you could rattle it off for us, please, sir.
Yes, so I've got Ramsdale in goal. I've got Trent, Sis, and Cancelo as my back three. I've got Son, Salah, Maddison, Saka, and Gallagher in my middle. And up front, I've got King and Bamford. I've kind of already mentioned why I want to leave Salah in there, and what we've sort of told you tonight, that the worst that's probably going to go down to with the safety net is probably going to get Jota for a couple of games in there. I might change a few more things around listening to what Sean's told me tonight, but I do like the balance of the squad. I like the Tottenham players. I like Son. Wolves, just as a Chelsea fan, that game the other day was the most infuriating game I've watched. But they are just solid at the back. They're absolutely solid. Yeah, and they've got. If we pull up that graphic of this fixtures, they've got a nice sort of fixture list over when this starts. So they're very solid at the back. Wolves. They've only scored like. So they've only scored like 13 goals as well, haven't they, this season? They're not, they want to sit in, dig deep, and boring to watch, but great for us and great for fantasy players.
Yeah, I get that vibe from Wolves as well. I can see a few more clean sheets, definitely.
Oh yeah, as I say, the game I watched the other day, just as a Chelsea fan, it's infuriating. But Chelsea had a lot of players out as well. But no excuses. That Wolves done well. They got their draw, and that's what they wanted. I like Patrick Bamford to come back and start scoring. I think that's what Leeds are missing, just him up front. They need to start scoring goals. Bielsa's probably fighting for his job. They start off with West Ham, I believe, on the second chance game. King, I've got up front. Obviously, Dennis is going to go off to AFCON if it goes ahead. So we'll see. But I like King up front. And Maddison's come into a bit of form for Leicester, so I'm really happy to get him into this team and start off low. So I might change a few more things. I might move Ramsdale at goal, but Ramsdale seems to be solid. He's playing really well, like for Arsenal this year at the minute.
I've just been going through some of the safety nets just out of interest, and some of them are pretty decent. So Watford goes King to Dennis, and obviously Dennis would be gone, so you'd probably guarantee yourself a backup there. Bamford goes to Rodrigo, which could be a bit iffy, but then Gelhardt, who we've seen starting lately. Gallagher, there's loads below him as well. What do you think about this one, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's if it plans as it goes, or as Ben Cronin thinks at the moment, which obviously is a big if because we don't know so much. I think given it's only 17 game weeks, given you can roll as many transfers as you want, and given you get a wild card, I think really you just want to attack straight away. So if you've got doubles in those first few weeks, definitely avoid the Chelseas because I mean you want to go to Chelsea eventually because the games they miss will come back round, so they'll have more games potentially than anyone else at a certain point. But at the start, I'm eyeing up people that have potentially got doubles and just going for pure volume over the quality of the game at the start, just trying to get ahead and then build from there with it, really.
Yeah, if you
Yeah, I
don't,
might
go on.
try and get a couple more Tottenham players in, and Man United actually. Man United's an option.
Yeah, if you don't follow Ben as well on Twitter, Jack, go and give him a follow. Ben Krellin,
Definitely.
one of the best fantasy football follows you'll make. Okay, let's go on to Sean's second chance team then. Sean, if you could read it out for the podcast listeners, please, sir.
Yeah, so like I just said, I've really tried to attack potential double game week. So obviously a lot could change, but I've gone for Pope in goal just because of volume of games. So I don't think there's a huge amount between a lot of the keepers. And Burnley at the moment have got 3 games in hand on everyone else. So those 3 extra games, they're half decent defensively as well, Burnley. So that's my choice at the moment. At the back, I've gone for Trent. I just think, especially Trent and Cancelo at the moment, are just nailed on picks in any format that I play, just because they're just amazing value, regardless of the fact they're defenders as well. Just going forward, I mean, Cancelo just shoots from anywhere, and Trent, obviously, we saw that goal he scored a couple of weeks ago as well. I don't really want both of them in the second chance team though, because both of them have only got are projected to have 2 singles the first 2 weeks. So I think one of them's enough, and then go back to the other one. So I've gone for Trent, just because I think they've got slightly easier fixtures. They've got Brentford and Crystal Palace the first 2. I've gone for Regulon. Spurs, again, volume of fixtures. And I think at the moment they've got a double the first week, which is Arsenal and Brighton, which that's what it looks like it could be. So I think, yeah, attacking fullback looks decent. I've gone for Maguire at Man United. Again, another team. I think they have looked better. I know. I almost went for the triple up. So I think Ranić will make them better defensively. I probably prefer a fullback, but at the moment, I just don't know who it is. And you do get the safety net. So if I went for Shaw, but I think unlike if I did go for Shaw, you wouldn't necessarily get Tellez as the replacement, because it could be that Maguire is the next one underneath Shaw in terms of price. But I'm happy. Maguire will play most games anyway. I think he's had the most shots on target for Man U defenders, obviously just from corners and stuff. So I'm happy.
Wan-Bissaka would be underneath Shaw.
Yeah. So I'm happy enough with Maguire. So I've just gone for a back 3 at the moment. I, like Jack, have gone for Maddison. I think Leicester have got decent fixtures. I think if the doubles pan out as Ben reckons, they could have Burnley, Everton first 2 weeks. First week double. That's a decent 2 fixtures. Jarrod Bowen, West Ham were top of the fixture ticker. They've only got 1 game that first week, but it is Leeds. And I just think Bowen is a great. I think he scored again tonight. I think he's a great shout, and he also does have decent people underneath him. I think he has Fornells as a safety net, then Vlasic, and then Souček. So they're all decent options for me as well. I've gone for Rashford, as I mentioned, the safety net. I like a Man U attacker. Ronaldo's expensive, and you don't necessarily know that you would get a safety net without him. I know you think Cavani or Martial might play, but Martial might go in January somewhere else. And I just think the fact you get Rashford, if not Sancho, if not Greenwood, that's good enough for me, really.
Yeah,
for Man U.
that's really good. Yeah, I really like the look of Rashford actually with the from now, not looking at his second chance, but I'm really looking.
He's playing up top, isn't he?
Yeah, he's playing up top next to Ronaldo. He's not playing really well at all, but he's playing like 90 minutes. And he's not getting dropped. Yeah. It's early days with Ranić, but I've definitely got my eye on him. Yeah.
Their fixtures, potentially, they could have a double as well first week of Aston Villa and Brentford. So that's a decent 2 fixtures. And then after that, they've got West Ham, Burnley, Southampton, Leeds, Watford. I mean, that's as good as you're going to get for a set of fixtures, really. So I wanted a United attacker. I've gone for Mahrez, and I've just realised that he is at the AFCON, but I'm not too bothered by that because I get Foden. If not, I get Grealish. So you've got plenty of options there. And I just think Man City are a decent team. The only thing that would make me change that is they have only got a single game the first week, but I don't want to try and go too heavy on the first week and then have to use transfers constantly. I want to try and build a few up. So I've gone for that. I've gone for King as well up top from Watford. I think, again, he'll be the main point. Watford could have a double, which would be Newcastle and Crystal Palace. That's a great 2 fixtures in the first week to attack, really. I've then gone for Benteke at Crystal Palace.
Aye, Jack.
He's the most expensive, and he does have a few options underneath him. I think he has
Edouard,
Edouard underneath him.
Ayew,
Does he have Ayew?
Yeah.
So it's not as though if he doesn't play, you won't get an attacker. Again, Crystal Palace, I think they've got a double as well, potentially. They've got Brighton and Watford. So again, another 2 decent fixtures. He's decent when he's on the pitch. So I don't mind taking a bit of a punt on there. I think you've got to go a little bit different every now and then. And then I've also gone for Calvert-Lewin. If obviously he's fit and firing, he looks like he might be back on Boxing Day, which I think is really interesting for the season long, as well as second chance and everything. And if he's back firing, I think he could be prime captaincy for that first week. He's playing Norwich, and then he could potentially, if the doubles fall as Ben thinks they could, he could be playing Leicester as well. So you're going to want to captain a double game week if there are any in there. And I think Norwich and Leicester for Calvert-Lewin looks good enough to me.
What do you reckon about this one, Jackie boy?
Yeah, I like it. I say, Sean, what I've learned off Sean tonight is I'm going to take it into my builds and try and get some of these double game weeks. And yeah, I like it. You've got the United boys in. That's something I want to do, actually, get a couple of the United guys into mine. Not 100% sure on Rashford, but I get your thinking behind it, Sean.
Yeah, Ronaldo, I think Ronaldo, Sancho, Rashford, they're all quite interesting, I think, aren't they? But like you said, the Ronaldo safety net thing is
someone like Antonio. Someone like Antonio, I think will be quite a big differential because
he's got COVID now. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Said just now, yeah.
But I think if he doesn't start, I don't know if there is a safety net underneath him. So there's probably a bit of an upside to him, but there's just no cover. And do you really want that risk? With Kane and people like that, probably is less risk because Kane plays pretty much most games, doesn't he? So the chance of him not playing a game and you not knowing about it is quite low. But I just think I want to attack the doubles if they are there and build up some transfers to then reassess it. Because I don't know when the doubles and blanks are going to be this season, but you're going to guess like 27, 28, there's probably going to be a blank or something. So if you've got a few transfers in hand, whereas people could have teams that aren't playing at all, so safety net doesn't even come into it. You've got 4-5 transfers to just switch in players. You're then going to gain a big difference on those teams. So.
Do you think maybe potentially you could be in danger of ignoring players that have bad safety nets but are good players, if that makes sense? Like your Ronaldo's, for example, people who are could be potentially be a step above, but because you're worried about safety net, it may be potentially overthinking. Do you think? Are you worried about that?
I would agree with that. I think more, especially with the strikers, I think you're less. I think you pick someone like Salah, knowing that. I mean, obviously Salah's Salah, but if he didn't start for any reason, you get a Mane, so you're getting decent options. Man City, really, for me, you're not picking a player. You're not picking a specific player. You're picking, I want a Man City midfielder.
Yeah. And
I'll pick him at this point, knowing that if I don't get that player starts, I get X, Y, or Z underneath him, sort of thing. But yeah, for the strikers, I think Crystal Palace and Watford are fine because you've got a few underneath them. But yeah, for my team there, I've got 3 teams that have all got these 2 or 3 safety nets underneath, so I'm covered. But they're probably not the most consistent assets. I think Calvert-Lewin's decent on his day, but yeah, you've not then got people like Kane. You've not got Ronaldo. I think Rashford would cover Ronaldo.
Maybe missing an explosive option, but it's difficult because there's no subs, right? There's no subs bench, so I don't really know how. Yeah, it's a difficult one.
So you are going to get the benefit of having the Kanes and the Ronaldos, but you could potentially cover them with your Rashfords or your Sons, knowing that if they don't play, you've got another decent-ish asset underneath. The difference, I'd say, with people like Son is there's a massive price difference between, I think Son's like 10 million, but then Moira's like 6.5. So do you really want to be, Son will play, but there's a big drop then. So if Son was out for any reason, for 1 week, you'd be happy to drop to Moira, but would you then want to leave 3.5 million quid in the bank, essentially, or 3.5 million quid extra in your team, just because you've got a safety net of Moira? Probably not. Whereas with the Man City guys, you've got 5 people that are covered by £1 million in midfield. So if
the
Mahrez is
drop-off.
out for a while, you wouldn't transfer them out because you'd accept the fact you've got. It's very similar to the Champions League contest that was run for the group stage. So I had a triple Chelsea defence in that, but I just picked them at the start of the tournament and just left them in there, knowing that if I didn't get Reece James, I'd get whoever. I'd have 3. I didn't care who the 3 Chelsea defenders were. I just wanted 3 Chelsea defenders in that team. A bit like I'd like a Man City midfielder in this team. I want a Man U defender, for example. You're playing the position rather than the player. But you probably do need 2 or 3 players in there that you want that are going to be explosive. That's probably maybe what this team's missing a little bit, I'd say.
Yeah, you're right. Just looking at the details here, the drop off from the Spurs midfield is quite drastic, whereas that won't really happen at Man City. So you got Son at 9.8 million, and then the drop off is all the way down to 6.4 million. Mora, and then it's Dele Alli, Bergwijn, just players that they'd be stinking out your team, wouldn't they, if they were in there. Okay, we got your quiz next, Sean. The quiz is up.
Oh,
what you got?
It's only 10 questions. It's all on Fanteam the season long, really, just to see how well you know.
I'll close this window down. Go on, I'm ready.
So, which player has gone up the most in value after Mo Salah? A lot of these are apart from Mo Salah because he tops most metrics. But which player's gone up them?
Type your answers in the chat, is it? Or just say them out loud. First come.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Type them in the chat. Are you able to do that, Jack?
2 seconds. I'll have a look now.
I was a little bit surprised by it.
Gone up the most.
I've done mine.
Yeah.
I've gone for a defender.
Yeah, I was thinking defender. I'll just go with... I'll go with that. Probably not that, but...
I wonder if... Oh, you've typed it in the Zoom chat, have you, Jack? I've typed mine on the what do you call it, on the stream chat.
What did you go for, Jack?
Go on.
I went for Cancelo, but it's probably
Yeah, I went for the same.
See, Scoped in the chat has gone for Ramsdale. It's actually Smith Rowe.
Oh,
It's gone up by 0.8. Salah's the most with $1 million, but yeah, Smith Rowe's gone up by 0.8. Gallagher by 0.7, I think it's third. But who's the most owned striker in the game?
The most owned striker. Oh, there's got to be.
This is as it this morning from FF Stuff's website, another website that you definitely need to be using.
I'll put it in the chat again.
Yeah,
you can just say it if you want, because if Reece has put it in the thing.
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right. I'll go Ronaldo.
No, I've gone Tony.
No.
Oh,
it's Antonio still.
Obviously, the COVID man. People are going to be selling that guy.
Yeah, he's 37.5% of teams.
Oh, unlucky.
Watkins is 35.8. I think Ronaldo's in 21 because I've got him in my team. He's at 21%, which may go up over Christmas. I don't know. Who's the only? This should be an easy one for anyone that's listened to it at any time. Who's the only midfielder or striker to have played every minute for his team this season? So he's gained that extra 90-minute point every time.
Easy.
Who do you reckon, Jack?
Is it Rice?
It's Declan Rice.
Yeah,
yes.
I got that as well.
Which player has played the most minutes in the league, but has not played a full 90 minutes yet? We have mentioned him on this stream.
Could you repeat the question, please?
So which player has played the most minutes this season in the Premier League, but has not played a full 90? So he's not picked up a 90-minute appearance. So it's a midfielder or an attacker. I'll give you that as a clue.
Midfielder or attacker.
Sure, it's not
players played the most.
So they played the most minutes out of anybody who hasn't had a full 90-minute.
Yeah,
I think.
So it's the midfielder or attacker that hasn't picked up a 90-minute appearance point yet.
I don't think this is right, but it could be close. Yeah, I don't think it's right. Go on, Jack. Who do you think?
No, I'm still thinking. Go on, you say yours.
I got Jota.
I see what I was going to say, Jota. It was in my head, but it's not Jota. I know it's not.
It is Maxwell Cornet of Burnley. He's played, I think, 618 minutes so far, but not a full 90. Who's made the most saves in the Premier League this season?
Yeah, I know. I think I know.
I'll say mine out first then, because I don't want to. I'm conscious that I'm putting the answers in the chat a bit too quick for anyone who's watching.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Schmeichel.
That's my guess as well.
Yeah, I thought it would be. We spoke about it a few weeks ago, didn't we?
He's been overtaken.
Oh, Sanchez?
No. Do you think who's been quite busy the last couple of games specifically?
Dave?
So.
No, Meslier.
Oh, Meslier.
Yeah. He made like 10 saves, I think, in like the Man City game. Who is the lowest scoring player in Fanteam this season with minus 1.6 points?
It's a horrible question.
Oh, that's got to be like a red card or...
Give you a clue. He's a defender and he's only played 2 full games. He's been injured quite a bit.
So maybe... okay. Have you got one, Jack?
I'm going to go and ask the defender, Kalashnic.
I'm going to go Leeds.
That is
Cooper.
Oh, do you know what? You're both very close. I think, I'll just bring it up. I think Kolasinac was like second worst. I think he had like minus 0.8. And you were right in the fact it's a Leeds player, but it's Robin Koch.
Oh.
Minus 1.6.
Scoped in the chat says Pablo Mari.
Not a bad guess either. Who's the best value player in the game? So points per million. So who has scored the most points per million so far?
I'm going to say...
season?
I got mine, Jack. Go on. I know what mine is.
Can I say Conor Cody?
I'm going to say Yuri Tillemans.
No. Jack's got the right team.
CS?
Semedo.
No, close. It's the keeper.
Really?
Jose Sarr scored 90 points this season. And we're starting at, 4.5 million, something like that.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, Cody scored quite a few points though, hasn't
he? He is. He's 11th. He scored 66 points and he's only 4.5. He was 4.5 as well. Sice is up there as well. He's 6th.
So all these courtesy of FF stuff then? Or
Yeah, literally FF stuff. I mean, he does it for every format. So FPL, Sky, Sun Dream Team. He does it for all the fan teams. So NFL.
Oh, nice.
So basically, it's just a download. It shows you everything. So goals, clean sheets, shots on target. Really
It's
useful.
great.
Really
It's great product. Yeah.
Yeah, and I use it a lot for. I do the Sky article, and I use it a lot for the graphs and stuff. So it's really good. What's the next one? Who's got the second most assists this season? Obviously, Salah's top.
Second most assists is... I'm tempted to say Salah.
Salah is top. I'll give you that. Salah has the most.
Okay. I'm going to go Jota.
No. Not Jota.
Do you know what? I'm going to go outside the box and say Paul Pogba because I know he had about 10 assists in the first 3
games. Yeah, he's had 7. He's joint third. So Bowen and Jesus have both got 7. Trent has got 8.
Oh, of course.
Trent second. The last 2. Who is the player in the game that's less than 1% owned that scored the most points out of everyone that's less than 1% owned? So who's the proper hidden gem? Major differential if anyone wants to go left field.
Most points less than 1% owned. This is hard.
That is really hard.
Do you want to give you the position? I'll give you the position. It's
Okay.
a midfielder.
Less than 1%.
Midfielder.
Scored 69.6 points this season. Which is quite a lot.
I'm going to go with a boring team, but a player who plays quite a lot of minutes. A defensive midfielder potentially from a team like Burnley. I don't even know if this guy even plays. Westwood.
Good shout. He's less than 1% owned.
I'm going to go McGinn.
McGinn. That's another good shout. He must be more than 1% owned. He's not on the list. So Westwood is on the list. He's less than 1% owned, but he's only scored 44 points. It is Trossard, Brighton.
Oh, he is a differential.
Yeah, Henderson's second in terms of under 1%. And then you've got Kilman, Neves and Moutinho at Wolves are all less than 1% owned.
Trossard was coming up on some of our lists a few weeks ago, wasn't he? And he's got a double game week coming up, less than 1%
He always plays. He's played the full 90, 13. So he's got 13 points. So he's got like 20% of his points just from playing the full 90. So yeah, he's a definite good one to go for.
I like that.
Right, last one is which player that's owned by more than 10% of teams has scored the fewest points?
Which player is owned by more than 10%?
So at least 10% owned. There are only, I'll give you not really a clue. There are only 39 players that are owned by more than 10%.
I'm going to say 10%.
I think I owned him until the week before last. You might even still own him. I don't know. I don't think Jack does. I might make that up, to be fair. I don't know.
I'm going to say Basuma.
No. You got a guess, Jack?
Got a clue.
This is an absolute stinker of a question, to be fair.
Yeah, it is.
So if I tell you how much he's worth...
He's 10% owned.
He's 10.6... Is he 10% owned? 12.1% owned. He's £4 million in the game.
Oh, my God.
I know
he scored 10.6 points.
I know who it is.
Do you?
Yeah.
Go on then.
Hurst.
No, he's not played a minute yet. He's not scored any points.
Oh, okay.
It's not, because I'm pretty sure. He's 4.5, isn't it? It's not Ben White, is it? He's 4.5.
No, he's got loads.
Yeah. 4 million.
He's ownerships.
Woodman,
correct.
The goalkeeper.
Freddie Woodman at Newcastle. He played 4 games at the start of the season. He's got 10.6 points.
Come on.
And thus concludes the quiz.
Oh, that was awesome.
I'll give you an NFL one next week.
Yeah, I'll don't. Smash a like on the video, guys, if you enjoyed the quiz. We'll bring it back next week. It keeps Sean busy. Okay. Reese's Game Week 18 £1 million team. This is how it went for me. Not great, to be honest with you. So 50.8 points. This is too small. I can't quite see where I am. I'm just outside the top 10k, I think. I made a transfer of King out, Gelhardt in, Cash out, and Cancelo in. I believe they were 2 free transfers, if I remember correctly. It's good that I brought Cancelo in, right? Because it was a great timing. Someone who I've not had in my team, and obviously he's like one of the highest scoring players in the game, so happy with that. But it's just postponements, isn't it? I should have been a bit more aggressive, I think, in the Fanteam game, because I did that in FPL and came out quite well.
Look how well you look at the time of those transfers as well. That's committed fantasy football manager there.
What's the time?
3:30 on the Saturday. Half an hour before the rearranged deadline as well.
Wish I'd done that.
Just goes to show that I'm just at home all the time, and I got time to do these things, you know. But it was a debate on Twitter, wasn't it? It was like people were saying, "Oh, you're an idiot if you made your transfers early." But people have got stuff to do, right? They're working, they've got kids.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah. So that was my Game Week 18 story. Game Week 19 is looking like this. We got Sanchez, Alonso, Trent, Cancelo, James, Semedo, Salah, Jota, Mount, Tony and Ronaldo. Tony's on a yellow there, but I think he'll play. I think he'll be back for this game. But I guess we don't know what's going to happen, right, in terms of are these games going to be played, COVID, etc. So I'm kind of a little bit tuned out, to be honest with you, at the moment. This is how I'm kind of approaching it. I'm just focusing on like Christmas, focusing on other stuff, and then like literally the day that the games are going to come out or whatever, like the Saturday or whatever it is, then or the Sunday, then I'll have a little look and start, maybe sit down for like an hour and just do some things, because I think it's not worth, in my opinion, stressing about something which could just change so much. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it anyway. I'll head straight over to Jack's team.
Do we have to?
Yes, unfortunately. Game week 18 team slide I've got up here, Jack.
Yeah, just move on.
I mean, I can if you want.
It was just, yeah, I made some changes. I thought I'd take a minus 8, actually. I made some changes. I thought, get some players in, try and take the minus 8, try and sort of go up the rankings a little bit more than, because I'm doing quite bad anyway. As I say, I missed a couple of weeks, and then I'd done it at 12 o'clock or 10 past 11 there, and then the game got called off at whenever, I can't remember.
Half 12.
Yeah, half 12, and I was just like, no, great. So yeah.
To be fair, you're up on the transfers though, aren't you? Because Jesus 6.7, Gabriel 4.6, so a little bit up, but
yeah, a little bit up. Wasn't a great week. We move on, like you say, Reece. It's not worth getting stressed out about. It's one of them things we don't have any control over it.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, cool. We'll you're set up for game week 19, Jack. If you've got that slide, if you could read that one out for the podcasters.
Yeah, I'll just get that slide up now for you. So Edison in goal, Trent at the back, Rudiger, Gabriel. I've got Declan Rice back in, Bernardo Silva, my man crush, Mohamed Salah, Mason Mount, Emil Smith-Rowe, Gabriel Jesus, and Ollie Watkins up front. Hopefully we just get the games this week. That's all I want. It's just the games. I've got Tony on the bench as well, so I don't know if he's going to play this week. Is he back from his COVID spell?
He was on the bench tonight, I think, for their game, the Carabao Cup. Good. So whether he came on, I'm not too sure, but yeah.
I know Chelsea won, so I'm quite happy with that.
Okay.
Somehow. But yeah, I'm quite happy. It can't be any worse than last week. That's the way I'm looking at it at the minute. We'll see how it goes.
Oh, my missus is messaging me. She's down in the dumps with this COVID thing. Sean, game week 18. Tell us how it went for you, bro.
Well, I played 7-a-side football this week with no keeper. I only had 7 that eventually got out. Like Jack, I think only one was out because of the cancellation, but I did have a free transfer. I did try to use it, but I ran out of time, left it too late. But I was going to bring in Lacazette for Dennis. So I think Lacazette probably scored 5 or 6. So I'm not too bothered the fact it didn't go through, because I've now got 2 free transfers this week. But last week I had De Gea, Christensen, who is absolutely stinking my team out at the minute. Watkins and Dennis all didn't play. And then I had Trent, Cancelo, James, and Ben White came on for 0.3 points. Vice captained him as well. Don't quite know why. Because I knew that the Arsenal game was going ahead. There was still a bit unknown if the Sunday games were going to go ahead. So I thought at least if I get a captain in that game,
it was the first fixture, I think, wasn't it? Arsenal Leeds, was it?
Yeah. It was the 5:30 on the Saturday in the end, wasn't it? And then I had Salah, Jota, and Mount in midfield. Captain Salah. Wish I'd have captain Cancelo. I did it in FPL. I did it in Sky, but thought I was doing quite well in Fanteam. I think it was 500th before this week, so I thought I'll stick with the pack. Don't want to risk it. And then scored 44 points, which is well below average, and doubled my rank from 500 to 1,000. So not great, but hopefully this week will improve by hopefully just getting 11 out. I'll be happy with at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the moment I've got the same. So I've got De Gea in goal. I've got the same back 3 in terms of Trent, Cancelo, James. They're going nowhere for me. They're owned by more than 50% of the game. So a bit of a template team. I've currently started Ben White. I've then got Salah and Jota against Leeds. I think Salah will have to be captaincy this week. Can't really go against him. Mount and Bowen, happy enough with still. And then up front, I've currently got Dennis and Ronaldo with my bench of Krul. So I've got 2 keepers now. So just in case there is any postponements, I am covered. And when it comes to the blanks and the doubles, hopefully by having 2 keepers that play, I can work my way around there. I've got Watkins, Norgard and Christensen on my bench, but I have got 2 free transfers. It's difficult to know where to use them because you don't know who's going to play and there's such a quick turnaround. So I might just transfer out Christensen for another different defender, because I want to try and move away from triple Chelsea. Because I think with, as we've mentioned already, them going to the Club World Cup, you're going to have 2 weeks where if you've got triple Chelsea, you're going to have to really hope that your sub bench is strong enough. I've got 15 players at the moment that play, apart from Christensen. So I think it makes sense to move away from the double Chelsea defence and bring in potentially a Man U defender, but then I'll have a triple Man U. So I'll have to have a look to see who would be the best team to go for. I want to try and spread teams where I can just to avoid playing 7-a-side again.
Yeah, it makes sense. You've been wanting to get rid of Christensen for a while, I think, as well, haven't you?
Yeah, just not been. I think there's been other things to do, but with 2 frees and really nothing pressing to go for, I think this could be the week where Christensen goes for whoever. It might just be a cheap 4.5 million player from potentially someone from like Burnley or Tottenham, knowing that they are going to have 3 extra games at some point over the season. So it seems like a good idea to get them in now. But hopefully we'll get a bit more clarity maybe before Boxing Day about postponed games, but we shall see.
Happy days. That's it, I think, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit a like on the video. Hit subscribe if you are new. Follow both the guys on Twitter. Jack's got a lot of stuff going out all the time, and Sean is all over it across all the formats. I don't know what else to say, guys. That's it. Thanks for watching. The quiz was amazing, so do hit the like button if you enjoyed the quiz, right? Guys, thanks for coming on. Sean, anything coming up from you, from Fanteam Focus on the website, etc.?
We obviously will put a bit. I don't think there's any monster on Fanteam this week. I think they announced that today. I think there's a 5-game slate. I think they were doing a 3:00 kickoff on Boxing Day, so we might be able to get something out for that. NFL still going on this weekend, Jack, as far as I'm aware, isn't it? They don't really stop for Christmas, do they?
No, you've got 2 games on Christmas Day, so
yeah.
I'll get an article sent over to you for the Red Zone Monster on Boxing Day.
Cool. Yeah, so we'll get that out. And yeah, they will just have stuff over socials, really. But yeah, hopefully everyone just has a happy Christmas. Definitely.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Jack?
Yeah, like I say, just NFL keeps going, sport keeps going. Somehow finds a way to keep going. I will get an NFL article over to Sean, like I say. And Merry Christmas, everyone. And I hope your missus gets better soon, Reece.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I got a feeling I'm going to get, I think I probably already caught it off here now, so I got a feeling I'm going to be COVID Christmas, but we're definitely not going down to see the family now, which is a bit of a bummer. But anyway, Merry Christmas, guys. Hope you have a nice one. Thank you again for watching.